let's talk about our agenda briefly. You can see we're gonna focus on the HR department, certainly, but I want to talk about the role and the challenges that that person has, that HR administrator. We're going to get into a live demonstration because just PowerPoint would be boring. And then we'll get into a discussion on something called the Solutions Delivery Network. And if you've been around Square 9 for a little while, you've heard of that before, but for those of you that have not seen that, I think you're going to like that quite a bit. And lastly, we're going to get into some questions and answers. So reminder, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the questions section as they're fresh in your mind, okay? So let's get into that role of that HR person. So the main role of human resources, that department, is to protect the organization. This includes maintaining employee records, ensuring they're up to date on new government and industry guidelines and requirements, and ensuring that all policies are enforced across the entire organization. A lot of those tasks are document-centric, meaning they either begin or end with a paper trail. Honestly, when's the last time you did anything with HR that didn't include some sort of a paper trail? That makes the onboarding process even more important than ever. Oops, went too far, hang on. So there we go. Many issues that our friends in HR face every single day stem from those same documents we're talking about. So for example, when a new employee starts with every organization, an I-9 employee eligibility document must be completed if you're within the United States. Failure to do so could result into a fine up to $10,000 per instance. If the document was handwritten and then misfiled so you couldn't find it during the audit, you may have gotten the document from the employee when they started, but it didn't do you any good. Additional issues around the processes also can create problems. In a competitive job market, if you're recruiting new talent to your organization, you need to move quickly. If you're waiting on someone to approve an offer letter or review a background check result, just emailing the document to that person or printing it and dropping it off at their desk is just not good enough. With an automated workflow or business process, that would greatly improve the responsiveness of others. In addition to that, once the paperwork is completed, one set of documents can start many different internal processes. For example, an onboarding document, which we're going to play with today, can also inform the staff in the IT department to create an email address and maybe a login ID for the network and the line of business applications. So let me share a couple of good examples of these issues in greater detail. The first example is with a Subway franchise in Minnesota. They have over 20 locations, and I'm sure you'll agree that the restaurant and hospitality industry has a fair amount of turnover in staff. Accompany that with the additional regulations for hiring a minor and the fact that they use a higher percentage of part-time staff, which equates to more staff members, you end up with a lot of paperwork. Armstrong decided to tackle this issue by using global search and global capture, which allowed them to get their hands around the problem. Once they did that, fate was on their side because right after that, they were facing a lawsuit where they had to supply a significant amount of paperwork to defend their position. Remember, their job, that HR role, is to protect the organization. So rather than taking weeks to gather up all the paperwork, they did so. They were able to supply all that paperwork in only 3 days, which resulted to them proving that they did not violate any discrimination laws, and they were found they didn't have any issues. They didn't have to pay any fines. If that wasn't bad enough, right after that case, they had a Department of Labor audit for workers' comp. So again, they had to go and supply all this information about multiple employees, and they did so in less than a week. And since the paperwork was so thorough and submitted in a very timely manner, they again did not have to pay any fines. The power of having your documents managed cannot be overstated, and a filing cabinet or a network drive is not document management. Another great example is managing your paperwork from the very beginning, which kind of talks about what we're focused on today, is that onboarding process. This example comes from a hotel franchisee with over 100 locations. They deployed our global forms solution to standardize the process and gather all the required information in a digital format. So there was no paper involved at all. Once the information was captured, it was then stored in our global search platform. You're going to see that today as well, providing them with near instant access from all of their locations assuming they had the right credentials. Security is a big part of this as well. What once took them multiple days, and in some cases up to a week to complete for new hiring, is now done in just 2 or 3 minutes. This means that while you hire new people or bring them back from furlough, which also requires a lot of documentation, all that required paperwork can be processed accurately and efficiently without having to hire additional staff for human resources or having those HR staff members work very, very long hours. You can then defer that new hire and put those savings directly to the bottom line of the organization. Now, another benefit of this digital onboarding is the employee's opinion of the organization when they first join the company. So when you have a new employee join your organization, are you setting a stack of documents in front of them their first day and they have to sit there and fill it all out sitting at the desk? Or are you emailing them a bunch of PDFs to their personal email address before their official start date, which then they have to download onto their computer? You hope their personal computer is good enough to handle that, and then send it back to you. Emailing this information may not be the best way from a security standpoint as well. If you could offer them a web portal or a landing page, which you see here on the left, which is basically a list of documents they need to complete, this is a much more modern approach. This provides the HR team a way to track which documents have been completed. It gives the new hire teammate a way to access the documents from any computer with an internet connection in a secure manner. This also ensures that the employee is completing the right version of the documents as well. The first opinion of the processes of your organization makes a difference. These are lasting impressions, and if you want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward, ultimately this may lead to keeping those talented staff members a little bit longer too. So let's move outside of PowerPoint and let's get into the demonstration itself. Let me pull a new screen into view here. And we're going to start with this landing page I was just talking about. So let's say we're a new hire. We just got signed on with the company, and now we're going to complete all this information. All I've got to do is click one of these links. When I do, it's going to open that document in a new tab. So we come in here and we're going to put in my name, where I live, and I'll do a drop-down list here for my state. And I'm going to click next. Now I've got a disclaimer I have to read. Probably should read that pretty close. Now your clients would have their logo here. It's injecting my name and where I live into the form. And all I've got to do now is come in here and sign it. So I could sign that with a mobile device perhaps. Maybe I'm using a touchscreen laptop, or I just use my mouse. I might want this document for my records. I'm going to go ahead and put my email address on here and click submit authorization. Pretty painless, right? We've all filled out a form at least once in our life online. Pretty straightforward stuff. Now, this landing page here, or this page we just loaded here, could easily be information about your company, or it could take them right back to that landing page where they do the next one, which might be an NDA or a background check. Now I want to move into another document, a multi-page document. This one's the first one we did was pretty straightforward, right? You filled out a little information, you read a disclaimer, you signed it, you're good to go. Pretty basic stuff. Okay, let's do one that's a little more complex. That's a federal W-4. Now this is the 2020 version of the W-4. This has changed. It's a new version for this year. And this yellow box at the top is only there because it's for demonstration purposes. You would not see that in production. So I'm going to come in here. Again, we're going to put in my name, not my social security number. Let me back something up here. You see how the box is turning red? It knows I don't have the right format for social security number. So now we're going to start standardizing what we're bringing in. So I'll go ahead and put in that. And then I'll put my employee start date. All right, now I'm going to come in here and put in my address. I'm going to use the company address. So if you're ever in New Haven, that's our address for Square 9. I hope you stop by. And we're going to go ahead and fill this out. So I'm married. We're going to click next. And now I can open up another form within a form. Pretty powerful. And that's for this multiple jobs worksheet. So I might come in here and put in another value for, my side gig where I'm making a little extra money on the side, or I could put in information about my wife's employment or something like that. And now we're ready to move forward Here I can put in my dependents. So I've got one of these, two of these. And now when I click next, I can open the deduction worksheet if I want. I won't for demonstration purposes. Now you see that number right there, that value that was just there. Let me back up. That was the value calculated from that side gig I put in there. So now I'm ready to sign it. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go ahead and sign my name. You can see I changed the ink to blue on this, so you have control over that. And now I'm going to review my W-4. I can go through here, make sure it's right. Am I good? Yes, I'm good. I want a copy of this myself, so I'll go ahead and put that in there. I want my own email address, so I get a copy from my records. Didn't have to do that if you didn't want to. And again, I'll hit submit W-4. So now in the background, that W-4 is going to go into global search, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. We'll be there in just a few minutes. So what other kind of documents do we have? Well, if I'm a new hire, I've got to complete the I-9 because we don't want that $10,000 fine if we get audited, right? You can see here that a lot of this information is pre-populated. We are able to do that by once you fill out that form the first time, we're able to pre-populate that using different resources. But not everything here is completed. So we have the demographics about our new hire, that's all good. But when I scroll down here, we still have a little bit more work to do. So I'm going to add in that I'm a US citizen. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to sign it. Now, when I sign this one, it's going to act a little different. That was a pretty small signature box on the form itself. So give me a little more room, have a little pop-up here, I'll sign that document. And then puts my signature right where it goes, and it calculated the date on when I signed it. So we can't fudge that. I can't come here and modify that, okay? We're gonna scroll down, hit the next button. And now I need to add in a document here to prove that I'm a valid citizen, I'm able to work here. So I'm just gonna drag and drop a document in here, this PDF. It's just oops, that's the wrong PDF. Hang on, let me get the right PDF. There we go. It's just a picture of a passport. So you're not going to see my passport today, but that's what you would do. If you configure the form to be set up for a mobile platform, like you're going to fill this out on an iPad, instead of dragging and dropping the document here, we can take a picture using the iPad or an Android phone or whatnot. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click save. That's now going to show up in global search, and like I said, we're gonna play with that global search tool here in just a few minutes. Okay, I filled out a bunch of forms, feeling pretty good about my new job. That's good, but I might have another document that needs to be submitted into the organization. You know, maybe it's a copy of a non-disclosure agreement I signed with a previous employer, and I just want my new employee to have that on record. Okay, well, there's not going to be a form for that. It's not the new hire, the new company's form, right? So that falls into the everything else category. Well, we could just drag and drop that into global search and then index it. I'll show you that in just a little bit. But we can also use a cover sheet. So I'm going to come in here to this form. I'm going to put in today's date, and we'll put in the employee's name. He is in the sales department. So I hit S, it just filtered that drop-down list for me. Now the HR category, this is where we're coming through here and saying, well, what kind of document is it? Like which category does it really belong to? We'll leave it in onboarding. And then we have this other drop-down list of all the other types of documents that belong in onboarding. We'll just put it under NDA for now. Now, if I come up here and I say, well, wait a minute, that really wasn't onboarding. Maybe that was something to do with benefits, right? Well, then this drop-down list changed. So that's going to help you, again, standardize that information later. That way, when the audit comes in, then we are able to prevail through the audit, right? So we print this cover sheet. I'm not going to print it to paper because we're not in the same office and you don't need to hear my printer run. But basically, it's going to give me a preview here. I've got this nice cover sheet. It's got my logo on it. Your company or your client's company would have their logo there. We have the ability to read all these little barcodes. These are called QR codes. It's a 2D barcode. So we're going to read the content of those. And all we have to do now is put it on the paper document that we want to scan in, probably take the paper clips and staples out of that document and run it through whatever capture device you want. That could be a scanner sitting on your desk, like a direct connect scanner. It could be a copier that scans, often called a multifunction peripheral or an MFP, just something to capture that image, which would then be auto-imported and stored away, okay? So we're done with this. We're not going to play with that anymore. Now we're talking about the onboarding process here. We have all these different onboarding documents, but it doesn't stop there. So we might go down the route of other HR documents. You know, maybe even though I was fictitiously just hired at this organization, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm going to request some time off. So I've got a list here where I can pick my employee ID number. That's going to populate my email address right here. I'm going to put in a date for when I'm submitting my request. So first day of the job, I'm going to go ahead and request a day off. Why not? I'm on a vacation, or maybe I've got jury duty, God forbid. So you can select the different types of personal time off here, and that could change a few things. So if I come in here and I want FMLA, you have to put in the reason behind that and supporting documentation. All right, we'll leave that at vacation for now. And let's see if my boss will approve this. I'm going to take off tomorrow, and I'm going to come back, I don't know, I'm going to take the month of September off. I'm feeling pretty good about it. There we go. Look here, I can even control what time of day. So if I want to take a half day off, I can do that too. All right, so now we've got that. I'll come in here again, sign it. It calculated that. I could clear this and start over, or just go ahead and submit it to my manager. Since my employee ID number is here at the top, it already knows who my manager is. All right, so another way to use a form to collect information. I know it isn't onboarding, but pretty powerful stuff there, right? One more I want to show you, and then we're going to go into search and go look for some of these documents. I know I'm showing you a HIPAA release, and you're like, Keith, what is a HIPAA release? That's not onboarding. Now, don't think about the content of the document here, but what I want to show you is if you require multilingual forms, I could easily come in here and go, okay, here's a Spanish version of this form, or English. You could have French if you want. You get more than two, but you can easily have two, multiple form languages in here. Not a problem. Okay. So we've created some documents, and it's pretty powerful. I've shown you how to do that. Now let's move into how do I go back and find these documents later. All right, so now we're going to move over to this tab, Global Search. If I had just logged in, this is where I start. Now this is assuming I have credentials to see all these different archives. And I do. I basically have security turned off so I can do anything in here. But if you're an HR administrator, you probably only see HR. Okay, if it may be the wellness, and I'll talk about wellness here in a little while. If you are in accounts payable, you likely only see AP, AR, maybe purchase orders and vendor contracts. Those are probably the only four you're going to see. I'm going to go ahead and select on HR, and we'll get started with consuming our data. So you can see, I didn't mention this earlier, but this is a browser interface, so I don't really have to install the desktop client if I don't want to. I'm using Google Chrome today, and you can just simply log in here and start to consume your data. Now we've broken the data down by HR categories. So you have your onboarding category here, you've got your performance reviews and so on under the performance category. Maybe you've got some W-4s. We filled out that W-4 earlier. Well, here's Keith's W-4 right there. And if I double click on that, I can open that up and see the information in there. Takes a second to load that because it's pulling it from the server. There it is, W-4. Again, just takes a second to load that up, but there it is. Now I can come through here and I could highlight it. There's my blue signature. I could highlight something. I could search within the document if I want, print it off, email it off if that makes sense, and so on. Now, it's nice to be able to look for your documents and kind of, hit the different tabs and see what you have in here. Pretty straightforward. But when you have thousands and thousands of documents to support all of your employees, that's probably not how you're going to find things. So with a software name like Global Search, it's got to search, right? If I come over here to that archive and hit my little search button here, looks like a little magnifying glass, that's going to open up all the predefined searches we have. Now, I'm going to talk about where these predefined searches came from in just a moment. But if you have another search that doesn't fit one of these categories, you can add more types of searches in here. So remember, I talked about that significant fine, $10,000 per instance, if we don't have all the I-9s. Well, maybe an auditor comes in and says, I want to see all your I-9s from this year. All right, well, we'll start with January 1st, 2020, and we'll put in today's date, 8/26/2020, and run search. Now it's going to bring me back just those I-9s. There they are. Only had 2 this year. So John Smith and Keith Snyder, those are 2 new hires for us. Pretty straightforward. Again, if I want to open one of those up, I double click on the row where it says John Smith, it would open it up in another tab. Okay, let's do another search here. Maybe we want to see everything from Keith Snyder. Well, we can come in here for employee files by type. We'll come in here and look for Snyder, see if we have more than one of those characters. And if you want to, I hit run search. If you want to filter that, let me try that again. Come in here, employees by file type, Snyder, and then we'll hit that record type. If you want to say, well, what kind of records are we looking for? You know, maybe we're only looking for stuff in payroll that has to do with Snyder, and we'll run a search, and we should find a W-4 in there. But it also might have things like, we got to now click under payroll. It might have things like a direct deposit form or a child care deduction change, something like that, okay? So you can easily find your information in just a few seconds. So if I wanted to come back here and add more documents in, I showed you the ability to use that cover sheet generator to scan in a bunch of documents, and that is a great way to do it. But what if that document you want to add came to you in a digital format? In other words, it was born digital. Well, if that's the case, why would you print it just to put it into global search? That doesn't make any sense. It's already digital, and let's not go analog. So if I have a resignation, all I have to do is drag that document out of my email or out of my Windows folder or whatnot, and I'm just going to add it to HR resources. It's going to pop that document up, and at this point I can manually index it. So I can type in information. I hate typing in information, so I'm going to use something called key-free indexing, which is going to allow me to OCR that document and point and click the information off of it. It's just faster. So this is for Keith Snyder. The department is sales. Category is separation. Doc type is notice of resignation. Doc date, we'll click that. Oh, I didn't do that. Try that again. Click that. Okay. And now we're ready to go. So, sorry, boss. I won the lottery for $200 million. Me and the wife are going to the beach. We're out of here. Nice working with you, though. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and let me fix that. That was operator error. I'm going to hit the save button here. And that's it. It's in there. So now I can go do a search for Keith Snyder, and I'm going to find that. Let's go ahead and close this document out. I actually played around a little bit. That one's in there twice, as you can see. But then there's this other one, and it's got a different logo. So this is a PDF, and this is a PDF, because it's the same document twice. But this one's different. What is this thing? Well, maybe I called my boss. I called up Steve, and I'm like, hey, you're not going to believe this. I just hit the lottery. I'm out of here. I'm heading to the beach. I'm going to the Dominican maybe. Okay, well, he might save that voicemail file. Just because it's not something you can read doesn't make it that still makes it a document. Could be video, could be audio, doesn't matter. So we're storing that document here, and if I want to listen to it, I can. I could launch that out to a media player, and off we go. All right, so we can drag and drop, we can point and click index. We have lots of searching to get your information, and you can drag things right from Outlook and drop them right into here as well. A lot of folks want to archive emails, and that's for good reasons, okay? So that gives you an idea of what's possible from a search standpoint and how you fill out those forms. But let's go ahead and finish the rest of the information here, all right? There's a lot more info I want to share with you. So I mentioned earlier that we solve these business solutions with multiple products, right? So we bring to market a comprehensive suite of products, including global forms to standardize the document creation. Global capture is used to extract data from documents, both paper and electronic, some of which may be originating outside of your organization. Global search is the repository where all of these go to live. And finally, global action, which you did not see today. It's a workflow engine to put all your documents and tasks to work. We also offer something called the Solution Delivery Network, or what we call the SDN. This is a pre-built library of pre-designed configurations to allow for rapid deployment for new clients and very easy expansion for existing clients. These configurations can be deployed as is, or you can enhance them to meet your specific needs. The SDN, or the Solution Delivery Network, was developed in 2018. We continue to add content to this library often, and so it's a good idea to come back and revisit that webpage, and I'll show you that link in a moment, every 90 days or so. Of course, if you follow us on LinkedIn or YouTube, when we introduce a new offering, we're not usually very shy about it. As you can see on the screen, you can simply select the different configuration templates you want to use from the library, download them, and implement. Likely, you're going to want to make a few changes, such as adding your own logo or changing the content of a disclaimer or something like that. These are very common changes that can be performed either by yourself if you go through the online training, by our authorized reseller community, or by the Square 9 professional services staff. Earlier, I demonstrated how easy it is to create a document for your employees using global forms. This demonstration included the I-9, the W-4, and drug screen result, and a couple more. Each of these forms are important to nearly every organization within the United States. If you're joining us from Canada, you have your own versions of these documents, and very, very similar. Specifically, in the area of HR compliance, where you failure to produce these documents can result in a significant fine. We mentioned that earlier. These solutions are available from the SDN, and the three I mentioned, the I-9, the W-4, and like a drug screen result type document, they're just a few of the many examples you'll find within that library. If you have the licensing, the software licensing, you can simply download those and go. If you don't have the licensing, we'd be happy to talk to you about that as well. There's another example I want to talk about that is available from the SDN, and that's our response to COVID-19. Now, we're not going to jump into that today, because today's webinar is focused on the new hire and the onboarding process. And we don't want to move off that topic, but I would be remiss if we didn't remind you of this return to work package that we're currently offering. This is a solution that protects both your employees as well as your organization, and HR administrators are very concerned about that, as well as the owners of the organization and sometimes the legal departments. This package is aggressively priced, it's fast to deploy, and it could be 100% cloud-based if you wish, or it can be deployed in an on-premise model, really whatever best for your organization. You can access our landing page with the link on the screen. We're going to add that link to the chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen right now. It may be there already. So that's something that you should visit. There's a fantastic 93-second video on YouTube you can watch, and there's lots of documentation there too. Please spend time on that. It's worth looking into. The easiest way to learn more about the Solution Delivery Network is going to our knowledge base. If you go to the Square 9 support page, scroll down, you'll see documentation for all of our products. Simply go to the Business Essentials space, click on the area to expand the Business Essentials section, and then you'll find everything you need to get started. Now, while the forms found in the gallery are very helpful for most organizations, you will likely have your own forms you want to leverage. For example, an acceptable use policy for company computers, or the ability to update emergency contact information. That's just a couple that come to mind. You can easily create these documents within the Global Forms platform. If you're in the HR department, you might even let other departments use the software or that Global Forms platform for their forms. So if you have a friend in the accounts payable department, they can easily use this as well. Great example of that is that W-9 and sales tax exempt forms. There's lots of stories around that. So to summarize the benefits of this of the digital onboarding process, the whole point of this is to standardize the collection of information and make that happen in a very timely manner. All right. This also can let you initiate internal processes once the documents are collected, and then all important, we have to ensure compliancy around government mandates, right? Don't get sideways with the government. So we're starting to wrap this up, and hopefully you've put lots and lots of questions in that questions panel. If you didn't, now is the time to do that. While you're doing that, I'm going to answer a few questions that we have heard over the years. So are we limited to the forms only found in the SDN? No, not at all. You can easily use those forms. That library is always growing, but I think almost all of our global forms deployments will include the client's own forms or tweaks to the ones that we have out there, right? You can make the forms your own, all right? The forms gallery is a great place to start and kind of get the creative juices flowing. You might see a form in there you didn't think about, but it's certainly not the end all be all. We'll take it much, much further with you, okay? Can they be internal and external forms? Sure, absolutely. Global Forms is typically deployed in an on-premises environment. Those forms can be internal facing and external facing, but that server belongs behind your firewall. So there'll be a little work to do there, but we'll certainly help you with that. Okay. Okay, so what if we deploy a form and then later we don't need it? And that COVID-19 form is a great example because hopefully we won't need that for very long. You know, a cure comes out and we go back to normal, right? Okay, so the other thing that could happen, by the way, is what happens when a federal form changes? We just saw that from the W4 2019 version to the 2020 version. Well, most end users complete our free online courses, right? These are self-paced online educational pieces. They're extremely well written. We have a staff that keeps that up to date, and then they can become self-sufficient. Now, if you're in a hurry and you don't want to go that route, or you want someone else to build the forms for you, and then you're going to maintain them later after you go through the training, that's not a problem either. Again, Square9 has a robust professional services staff. Those guys and gals are amazing. And then we also have authorized and certified resellers that have also been through the training, and they know how to do this, and they can offer those services for you as well. Okay.